This week's Parsha is Parshas Va'Yishlach. Parshas Va'Yishlach begins with the meeting between Esav and Yaakov. After many years of no correspondence, Yaakov and Esav finally meet up. If you remember, Yaakov and Esav are not on good terms, and that is because Yaakov had stolen the blessings of their father Yitzchak from Esav. He dressed up as Esav and came to his father's tent, receiving the blessings of Esav that his father meant for Esav, and Esav held the grudge. In fact, Esav had vowed to destroy Yaakov and to even kill him. Now, in this week's Parsha, Yaakov is approaching Esav, and this is going to be their first meeting after a very long time, and Yaakov tries to appease Esav. He tries to silence his anger. He does this by sending multiple gifts to Esav, flocks and flocks, and herds of animals, and tremendous amount of wealth to him. And Yaakov seems successful when he finally gets there. He meets his brother, he gets a warm embrace, and then Yaakov expresses that seeing Esav at this moment is kir'os pnei Elohim, a very interesting wording. It's like seeing the image of a divine being. Divine being not as in God, a divine being. Someone of great status, of great importance and prominence. Now the problem with this statement is, first of all, what did he mean by that? Esav was a terribly evil man and had committed a tremendous amount of sins of the highest status. He was very, very evil and sinful. And Yaakov is calling him that he is similar to a divine being. Furthermore, the Gemara in Sota discusses this. The Gemara in Sota says that the flattery, the idea of flattering someone, which is giving someone compliments which are not due to him, is a terrible sin and causes a tremendous amount of misfortune. And there the Gemara talks about the story with Agrippa, King Agrippa, who was a very righteous king. Unfortunately, he was descendant of a very evil family, and he was actually halachically not allowed to be king. According to Jewish law, he was not a person who was fit to be king. And when there was a custom that the Jewish king, when we had our own kingdom, the Jewish king, once every 7 years, in the year of Shemitah, the king would read the entire Sefer Torah, all the 5 books from a Sefer Torah. When he got to the commandment to place a king on the Jewish people, he started crying because he knew that halachically he was not an appropriate king. And the wise men of that generation said, Agrippa, you're our brother, and tried to comfort him. Unfortunately, though, that was not a good move, because that was flattery. Because even though he was their brother, he was a Jew, nonetheless, he was not a proper king. He wasn't a halachic king. And tremendous misfortune befell the Jewish people as a result. Now back to our story. What happened with Yaakov and this flattery? What was he doing? So the first opinion in the Gemara explains Yaakov's actions because flattery, in a case where someone is in danger, he thinks he may be in danger, is allowed. If a person is in a situation where if he flatters a person, he may escape perhaps danger, then he is allowed to flatter that person. The second opinion in the Gemara says that flattery is altogether prohibited. So what's going on in this episode? So the Gemara cites a parable of a person who was afraid of someone else who was approaching his house. And when he entered his house, he invited him for a bowl of soup. As he's mixing the soup, he tastes it and he says, tastes just like the soup I had when I ate with the king. And then serves his guest, the guest who he is afraid of, the bowl of soup. The intent of the Gemara, of course, is to say that a hint was dropped here that don't mess with me because I have friends in high places. And that's exactly what Yaakov was doing. He gave a statement which could be understood in 2 different ways. It could be understood as flattery, as Yaakov flattering Esav that he is a great man. Or it could be understood as, I've seen divine entities, and I've dealt with them, and I can deal with you too. So don't mess, basically. So with that opinion, you go like in the Gemara. The idea is that flattery is strictly prohibited. Certain instances may be allowed according to the first opinion, and according to the second opinion, if it's in a case where your statement of flattery can be taken two different ways, then it's also allowed, according to all opinions. Now, the issue with this is like this. The second opinion says that flattery is strictly forbidden. What happened with the entire beginning of this episode? Yaakov sends multiple gifts to his brother Esav, extolling his virtues and referring to himself as your servant Yaakov. So isn't that flattery? So why is the second opinion in the Gemara and Sota, is he okay with all the previous facts, but with the fact that Yaakov flattered him, expressed flattery to Esav, why is that all of a sudden an issue? Have a great Shabbos.